Also, they also say that the the carve up agreed upon by the imperialists during the colonial period is fair and sacred, and that it would be unthinkable even to attempt to liberate areas in terms of their common culture and historical links, and that the only acceptable version of liberation must apply to the artificial units designed by the imperialists and hurriedly labeled nations, in spite of the fact that they are neither culturally unified nor, economically sufficient. So, as a further justification of this policy, imperialism usually resorts to all types of propaganda in order to highlight and exploit differences of religion, culture, race, outlook, and of political ideology among the oppressed masses or between regions which share a long history of mutual commercial and cultural exchange. Such methods aim to orient the leaders of the liberation movement towards a brand of nationalism based on petty-minded and aggressive chauvinism, as well as to steer the liberation movement along a reformist path. All right? The problem of liberation is therefore usually raised in terms of the participation of good indigenous elements in the administration of the colonized territory. For instance, through a policy of Africanization, devoid of any fundamental changes in political, economic, and administrative structure of the territory. So he's saying that the imperialism and neocolonialism, it has tactics of entrenching itself. When it senses, actually what we were seeing last time, that if this imperialism senses that there's a liberation movement somewhere which is rising, propaganda immediately is rushed in, all right? Because that liberation movement, especially if it is socialist in nature, and all it has the interest of the people at heart. People could even practice practice socialism or whatever communism, wherever we have seen in practice, and they may not even say that we are communists, but they are just saying that we are looking out for the interests of our people, the interests of our society, and therefore resources like oil, for example, or lithium or gold will be nationalized so that all the resources which are gained, maybe we'll build our own refinery so that the resources which are coming from these gold, they will take care of all our national needs, for example, hospitals or roads. And then if the revolutionaries come up with these kind of ideas, or there's a revolution which is starting somewhere, the imperialists will immediately come up with the propaganda and start pumping out propaganda in that particular society to try to defeat the narrative of what? Of the revolutionaries. And they will say that democracy, the Western way, is the only way, and capitalism is the only system there is, because it gives people freedom, and they will pump out a lot of propaganda like that. And all these, they are trying to defeat the revolutionaries who are rising, so that these revolutionaries, they will not rise to the top to take care of the interests of the people. And why is this? Of course, it's the same thing which we have been talking about, because capitalism wants to stay in that position, wants to stay in that area or in that territory, so that they can continue the extraction of those resources and take them to the metropolis, so that the capitalistic countries can continue to grow up. And some methods which Nkrumah is elaborating about here is that they resort sometimes to division. Okay, they will resort to division even within the revolutionary ranks themselves, the revolutionary group, and they will start exploiting religion, culture, race, stuff like that, so that the people will separate, and then the revolution will be defeated. So such methods aim to orient leaders of the liberation movement towards a brand of nationalism. And then you will hear, you see, like in the 1963, when the Nkrumahs were trying to unify the continent, you saw that there was plenty of leaders. They started like the Sengos, the Nyereres, and they were starting to come up with the African socialism. Others were coming about, I don't know, negritude, stuff like that. So Nyerere was saying that it's for regionalism, that we should build the regions, and then we should build the regionalism. And Nyerere actually was supported by the British. He got a lot of support by the British and the Americans in this regionalism that he wanted to build the East African community. So all this was this what Nkrumah is talking about was an attempt to defeat the revolution that time during that period, and of course they succeeded to a very big extent. So Nkrumah is saying that such methods aim to orient the leaders of the liberation movement toward a brand of nationalism based on petty-minded and aggressive chauvinism, as well as to steer the liberation movement along a reformist path. Because the building of regional communities, whether it's East African community, SADC, ECOWAS, all these were reformist, approaches, because they did not address, even up to today, they have not addressed the core issue that is on the continent. They have not addressed the issue, which is the resources. Our resources have continued to flow out. This was the issue. This was the biggest problem, because the imperialists, they came to the continent. Why did they come? They came because they want resources. That's number one. Number two, they came because they want markets where to sell their product, the finished products. All right. So these problems have never been addressed. And this is what Nkrumah is saying, that these institutions, which imperialism helps to create, and by fomenting divisions even within the liberation ranks in the 1960s, they were aimed at creating petty-mindedness and aggressive chauvinism, as well as to steer the liberation movements along the reformist path. So we became reformists instead of completing the revolution, and therefore you see that people like Newton Obote came, the Nkrumahs came, and then later on you have to get people like Museveni who came, and he's saying that he's also fighting for the revolutionary. And yet we had the Obotes who had come, and they were talking about the unification of the continent. So now the continent, even to today, is confused, that we are confused, that we don't know even where we are going, that we have people who are constantly coming and reforming and said we need reforms, we need reforms. Now the reforms have become endless. All right. So the problem of liberation is therefore usually raised in terms of the participation of good indigenous elements in the administration of the colonized territory. For instance, though a policy of through a policy of Africanization devoid of fundamental changes in the political, economic, and administrative structure of the territory. So this is the same thing which is happening. I think the best example of this is what is happening in South Africa, that the Africanization happened, that the Africans took over the economy, took over the political structure, and they took over in everything, but the real issue in South Africa was never addressed. The resources remained in the hands of colonialism. The economy, the whole economy, the land remained in the hands of colonialism. So I don't know, Sankara, if you have anything to add to this, and also the comrades.
Yes, I'm listening. Well, what you're talking about is correct. Reformism, it's the same as like the way we're looking at corruption. Reformist tendency means that we are not looking at doing away with the problem. You're looking at the symptom rather than the problem. So that's what Nkrumah was doing. You reforms you just need, for you just want they change something very small, but the problem remains. For example, you may be fighting for a salary, better salary. In the end, instead of giving you salary, they may say we are adding you like a small allowance for the next 3 months, and you'll accept, which means for the next 3 months, that small allowance may likely to go, it may likely to be taken off, and still the problem will come back.
Mm.
So you are just getting a symptom, but the true problem we are not doing away with it.
We're not
So it is
addressing.
just a reform, and it's continuous. Thank you.
And actually, in consensus, Nkrumah said that reform is just denial of when they say reform, that they should reform, if you hear people who are saying reform, that they should reform the system, reform, we need the reforms. Just know that those people, they just want to protect the system. They want to protect the same system. And these words normally come from the privilege. Those people who are benefiting from that system. They are the ones you hear that, oh, we should reform the system. Or the thing is working, but we just need to reform it. Just know that those people are interested in keeping the system. They are not interested in the grievances, in the suffering of the people. Okay, so let us continue. He's saying that the other comrade, do you have anything to add?
Not at this time. I'm really learning from you guys mostly.
All right, thank you, thank you. So he's saying that the transition to neocolonialism is the transition to neocolonialism is marked by a succession of more or less important measures, which culminate into a ritual of so-called free elections, mostly organized through methods of intimidation. All right. So he's saying that the transition to neocolonialism is marked by a succession. So now he's talking about a country which was supposed to be completely liberated, okay, but the liberation has eluded it now. So is now being transitioned to neocolonialism. Let us say, for example, the revolutionaries have been defeated or they have been compromised. So he's saying that when the country is entering the neo-colonial phase, it is marked by a succession of more or less important measures, which culminate into a ritual of so-called free elections, mostly organized through methods of intimidation. Local agents selected by the colonial power as well the representatives are then presented to the people as the champions of national independence and are immediately given all the beneficial attributes of power. A puppet government then has been formed. By the very nature, I think you have heard about in Africa. You have heard about when they have called certain countries the beacon of democracy. What? This is the beacon of democracy, and it's the West, which is normally giving these titles. So stable Africa's stable, most stable democracy. I think they were saying a bit about Senegal is Africa's most stable democracy. You see, so you can see that these things which Nkrumah is talking about, actually they are happening even today. By the very nature of its essential objective, which is exploitation, neocolonialism can only flourish in a client state. Okay, it cannot flourish, it cannot survive in an independent state, completely independent state, but rather a client state. When the farce of sham elections to form a puppet government proves it too difficult to enact, the colonial power tries to divide the liberation movement into a moderate wing with which it seeks accommodation and a militant wing which it endeavors to isolate and suppress by force in the last resort. So the division of the groups. I think that here Nkrumah is just warning even the revolutionaries for them to see what will happen. Even when you come as a revolutionary movement, you have to be on the guard of such issues that, first of all, they try to force you into election. So you can see that in the West, they are saying,
Comrade,
hello,
hello.
yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I wanted to come in. So, do you remember the thing between MK and the Umukoto Seziwi and the political wing of the national what Congress?
African National Congress, South Africa.
Yes, the African National Congress and the MK.
Yes.
The MK was the armed wing, and the armed wing suffered in the bush while these people were just chilling in making deals with the whites. Then there is also another issue of the
Also,
Mau Mau rebellion.
and also the Pan-African
When
concept.
those when these people were those of General Chide and the Dead and Kimathis were in the Abadeas, and then those of Jomo Kenyatta were in Nairobi making deals with whites.
Yes,
And in the end, Dedan Kimathi had to suffer in the Abadeas. He was betrayed by his comrades. The same as those of the Chris Hani.
yes,
Chris Hani, uh, so that is the thing. Uh, the the liberators and then the freedom fighters are divided. They are both.
yes.
Hmm?
They try to find.
Those ones who are
That's what Nkrumah is trying to see, that
yes,
to show. Yeah, that's exactly what Nkrumah is trying to
yes.
show. That they find the favor. They try to find favor with the moderates, the moderate wing within the revolutionary ranks, and they divide you and they alienate the and or even suppress the militant ones who are saying that no, we have to throw out the people like Winnie Mandela. You consider Winnie Mandela, they alienated her even in the ANC because she was saying that we should fight and push these people out and take our land. And the moderates, the Ramaphosas and the Mandelas, or they are the moderates, they were allowed to be inside the system. And then Winnie Mandela, all her life, they alienated her, because she was extremely militant, and those Chris Hannis, all of them, they, killed them. The Sobukwes, Robert Sobukwe. So in the last resort, neocolonials can even set up a bogus progressive party. Oh, Uma, Uma, Uma was angry here. He said the bogus. Uh, in the last resort, neocolonials can even
But
set
it
up
is
a
true.
bogus progressive party organization using local agents and maintain an artificial liberation movement, which serves as a worthy partner for negotiations as an intelligence agency or nutrition agency against the genuine liberation movement supported by the oppressed masses. Such is the role played by the fleeing in regard to Guinea-Bissau and UPA in regard to Angola. So yeah, I think I was talking about what was happening, during that period. And so once more, the stage is set for negotiations, autonomy, and the formation of a puppet government. So this our continent. We are in big trouble because we have been penetrated so much. However, the machinations of the colonial power will fail wherever the leaders of the struggle for independence maintain a clear spirit of vigilance and cultivate genuinely revolutionary qualities. Then and only then and only then does a truly independent African or independent government emerge. Then and only does a truly independent government emerge, dedicated to national reconstruction in the liberated territory and determined to assist all those engaged in an imperialistic struggle. This is very important. This is extremely important. For me, if you have, whether it is Museveni, if you have anywhere where somebody is saying that is fighting for the people, but they don't have the ability, they don't have the ability of, or they are not concerned about other parts of Africa and what is happening there. For me, I don't consider that a revolutionary movement, to be honest. Even the parties like ZANU PF of Zimbabwe, I consider it as a party which lost its qualities, its revolutionary qualities along the way, and they started engaging into corruption and eating, engaging into a rivalry. They are engaging in a rivalry. So they gave up on the revolution. They started engaging in arrivalism, eating, corruption, and all these kind of things, which are actually detrimental to the interests of all the other Africans. So that's where I have challenges with the President Museveni, that his brand of Pan-Africanism allows him to only be inside where he is, and then claim that he's a Pan-Africanist, but not engage in a whole continental struggle, and but even get the audacity to oppose, you know, people like Gaddafi, and then say that Nkrumah's approach was no good. Yet Nkrumah was trying to talk about
Comrade,
yes,
comrade.
yes, yes,
You see, before when they are there in the so-called resistance circles before independence,
yes,
like the ZANU PF, there was the national question. It had stood up. Are you seeing?
mm,
There was one question which was exploitation of blacks, and it was a trend in the 1960s for all people to go to war against the revolution, the colonialists. Not so.
mm,
So everywhere it was war in the 1960s. So when these people got power, like the ZANU PFs, the question of what to fight got lost. Now what should they fight? The colonialists had gone. It had come in as a new form neocolonialism, as you had read. Neocolonialism uses deception, lies, what even bribery. Not so.
yes,
So these people were bribed, and there was nothing new to fight. What else would they do? They would now look at also getting the money. That's why when you spoke about sham elections, I remembered Vladimir Lenin what he said. He said that we vote in new people, we remove new exploiters, and we vote in new people who have brought to exploit us. Can you believe that quote?
yes. So
We we
we
bring
vote
in
out
new,
voiters and we bring in new
yeah,
exploiters.
we bring in new exploiters. That is the thing. So they come at first.
Hello, Conrad has gone up. Okay.
People like Norbert Mao talking about that. You must have heard of it somewhere.
He was talking about what?
They say that the NRM of 1985 to 1995 is different from 1985 to today.
Yeah.
In fact, some say that you know that's when we look at multi-party politics coming in Uganda. Before it was the movement system.
After 1995.
Before it was better than today. Yeah.
Mm.
After 1995, that's when we see referendum, what. So, yesterday I was listening to, I was trying to do some research this week about the origins of terrorism. You know, terrorism has become a culture in the Middle East and
Yes.
even in the Horn of Africa. What has caused terrorism? It is that because of the Middle East, it had too much oil. The CIA got so much involved into bringing coups. Like for example, in Iran, that these people got fed up of the policies in such countries, and everyone developed hatred towards the United States and the UK. So
Yes.
it brought a culture of terrorism. So because for them they are used to removing, dethroning governments, bringing in new governments, it became their policy, installing their lackeys who they can exploit, who are ready to do what anything for them. It has been that culture for long, and it is what is bringing neocolonialism. One time I had a discussion with Comrade Tafari. Even a person who is exploiting Africa may, because there is now what we call it is what? Uh, I've forgotten its name. You may be exploiting Africa while you are planting trees. Eh?
Mm.
You are you are saying for you are still fighting for nature. But is it true that what you're doing is equal to what you're doing? What you're exploiting, is it equal to what you're bringing back to the environment? Eh? you are planting one tree, you are emitting carbon dioxide, which can kill like over 60 trees a day. Not so.
Yeah, yeah,
But because of the spirit of loving Africa, you also they say that it is Pan Africanism, isn't it? Pan Africanism, it is not an ideology. It has never existed as an ideology. It is just a feeling of love. But what can hold you accountable? What can hold you accountable is like scientific socialism. It is only scientific socialism because it has the trends, it has the checks on. Because even an Indian who is doing business here, exploiting Ugandans is doing what? Yeah, he loves Africa. He may be selling in Nigeria, isn't it?
he says
Eh?
he's creating jobs.
He's creating employment.
Yeah,
So we shall say it's Pan African. It's Pan African. It's true. Ah.
okay. The Indian is Pan African.
Yes, it is not limited to skin color, but how can we check that what you are doing comes in range with what you are, how you are exploiting? Does it come in line with what you are also bringing in? Not so.
mm, mm.
Okay, I think the other comrade can also talk something.
Yes, comrade, are you ready to talk? Comrade, are you there? Hello. So Sankara, let's continue. So okay, so let me continue
Yeah,
then. Yeah.
let's continue.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
Nkrumah is saying that uh, then and then only does a truly independent government emerge, dedicated. So, however, the machinations of so he's saying that the vigilance is very important. When we are vigilant, that's when we are able to cultivate a genuinely revolutionary government and revolutionary policies. And then there's such an independent government emerge dedicated to national reconstruction in the liberated territory and determined to assist all those engaged in anti-imperialistic struggle. Now, such a government is an obstacle barring the advance of neo-colonialism, and such obstacles must be increased because the example of genuine independence is contagious and will help to fortify extensive zones against imperialist aggression. I think that's what I was talking about today. That we need to identify if we are talking about fighting against imperialism on this continent or for the African continent. We identify where we can concentrate our effort. Even if it's one country, we because we have had this challenge of fighting together, we have had the challenge that many people now they have different angles, we are going in different directions, or even we are talking about different ideologies, even though we are fighting for the same thing. All right. So if we are able to overcome that and we get a position, we with our armed with our analysis, we choose a country where we concentrate our efforts, we can be able to get a government, get that government, and then that government is able to assist, others. That's what I think Nkuma is talking about. That such a government is an obstacle that you get, if you are able to get a center of gravity, then you bring on other countries, you help others, continue to push out fighters. The same thing which I think Nkuma was doing. Fortify, it helps to fortify extensive zones against interest aggression. First, with the genuine independence, First, with the genuine independence, imperialism is increasingly compelled to resort to encirclement and subversion in order to overthrow these popular governments, using such weapons as coup d'etat, assassination, mutiny within the party, tribal revolts, palace revolutions, and so on, while at the same time strengthening neighboring puppet regimes to form a political safety belt. condone Santa. Therefore, the main sphere in which we must strive to defeat neocolonialist intrigues is within the movement for true independence. That is, within the progressive political party which forms the government. Therefore, the main sphere in which we must strive to defeat neocolonialist intrigues is within the movement for true independence. That is, within the progressive political party which forms the government. This is particularly true in the one-party state, which can only function successfully under socialism. Usually, this ruling party is made up of several groups, each with its distinct economic and political interests. The relative independence of each group in the party and the state machinery will determine the course of development. Imperialist strategy is therefore directed towards bringing into a position of preeminence that group which most nearly shares its economic and political views. All right, that's what he's talking about. This the relative importance of he's saying that. Let me repeat this one. Therefore, the main sphere in which we strive to defeat neocolonialist intrigues is within the movement for true independence. That is, within the progressive political party which forms the government. This is particularly true in a one-party state in which a one-party state which can only function successfully under socialism. Usually, this ruling party is made up of several groups, each with its distinct economic and political interests. So he's saying that even though we may have a revolutionary movement, we may have that the ruling party is made up of several groups, each with its distinct economic and political interests. The relative importance of each group in the party and state machinery will determine the course of development. The relative importance of each group in the party and state machinery will determine the course of development. Imperialist strategy is therefore directed towards bringing into a position of preeminence that group which most nearly shares its economic and political views. So I think what he's saying here, I think is some sort of caution from what I get from here is that even within the revolutionary ranks, you will see that while you are fighting, you will have different people with different economic orientations. But like even when you go back to the Chinese Communist Party, you can see that Mao, whenever you exhibited some element of reformism, will banish you, like he banished Deng Xiaoping, and he will bring him. He would later bring him back, but he banished him. So I think this is what Nkrumah is talking about. So I think Mao, what he was trying to do by banishing anyone who had these sympathetic tendencies towards capitalism, like Deng Xiaoping, is that they could be dangerous. Somebody would be saying that okay, is in the interest, he wants to reform in the interest of the party, but yet he wants to sell out the party. And this is what Nkrumah is saying, that imperialism will always try to find these elements who are sympathetic towards it and cultivate that. Because they will say, oh, for example, oh, okay, you are sympathetic towards capitalism, even though that your whole group is radical, is saying that no, we don't want any capitalist element within the party. We don't want any capitalist, policy. We don't want it at all. So if me, I'm saying that, oh no, I think that we should carry out a mixed economy. So the imperialists will look for me and they will try to cultivate me, even though I'm not really interested in them. So I think this is what Nkrumah is talking about. That you will have different groups. These groups, they will constitute the economic and political policy of the party and of the country. But imperialist strategy is directed towards bringing into a position of preeminence that group which most nearly. So it doesn't even have to be exactly. You see that Nkrumah is talking about most nearly shares its economic and political views. You see? So you could even be sharing only their economic views and you don't share their political views. But because your group is very radical, is extremely radical, they will still try to cultivate you to see if they can win you over. And of course they could fail, as we saw that Deng Xiaoping, even though he rose to the top and he brought all these economic reforms, but when it came to the political structure, Deng Xiaoping never wanted the political structure. And we saw this with the Tiananmen Square, that when groups of people came out that they want to demonstrate, he brought out the iron arm and he crushed all the, these people who were trying to vote against the party. So, comrade, I don't know whether you have anything to add on there.
Yes, in China, yes, Mao Zedong, the senior comrade Mao Zedong, was very, yes, he was ruthless, but he was looking at expanding on thought and ideology in that direction. And then this man, the next chairman of the Chinese people, Deng Xiaoping, was was a bright man, even though the the bourgeoisie looked at influencing his idea and thought, because he was looking at mostly hybrid communism or hybrid socialism, was looking at, yes, a mixed economy. When they thought that he was very stupid, he crushed them. Yes, we have some tendency of some people who are not reformists in nature, but they know the party line and direction, but they do what sometimes they just they just think maybe this should be done this way, but they remain what they remain staunch supporters. Deng Xiaoping also had his own downfalls and his own things that led to his, which make him very important. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, comrade. Comrade, are you there? Do you want to say something? Comrade, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
And I'm still appreciating all that you are discussing here, and I'm really trying to learn more about the advantages of communism. And by the way, I don't know the difference between communism and socialism, if there is one. But primarily, still learning, and I'll keep attending, and maybe I'll in the future submit better content.
Okay. Comrade Sankara, can you explain to him the differences between communism and socialism?
Uh, Communism is, so far in this world we have not yet had communism. Communism it is beyond socialism. It is okay, like now we have a mixed economy. So then socialism, it is a dictatorship of the proletariat. The workers gain back their rights, but it is not yet fully to the, yes, they have gained like we had employee buyouts, we have cooperatives, workers coming together to build maybe a certain farm. But of course, there is still a mixed. It is still mixed, but the workers are buying back what the companies they are working in. They are contributing money. They are forming cooperatives. They are doing such on a communal basis. But of course, there's also some private ownership of goods, and factors of production are still in control of some people. Then that is just the start of socialism. Then after we have uh, the proletariat now controls the what, has control over the industries they're working in and their destiny. That is socialism. But communism, we are having, I'm sorry to say, but we shall call it like state capitalism. The state has, because now in socialism, we are looking at the workers rising, 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 rising. Then they will go up, then they will form like a state or a government for that purpose. That government will be a dictatorship of the proletariat. But in communism, we shall have state capitalism. The state has control of all what over all factors of production. The land belongs to the people. The industries belong to the government. Because the government, like there is a reason as to why we have a chairman in China. A president is not called a president; he's called a chairman. I think you have heard of such. Is it so?
China. Yes,
Yes,
inside
I
China
have.
they
Even
have
in
chairman.
even in North Korea, I've heard the
When we go
president is
outside,
called the chairman,
yes, when we go
right?
outside, that's when they call him president.
The reason as to why they call him a chairman is the chairman of the commissariat of the people, isn't it? That's I think what you normally hear them being called. So,
Mm.
like the workers of a factory in Leningrad voted their representative. Is okay. Let me use Uganda, Kampala. The chairman of the workers in Nakawa Britannia factory chose their own what their leader, right? In that formula, when they chose their leader, even let me say, Namanve also chose, let me steel and tube factory, Namanve also chose their own leader, right? All the factories in such places they chose their leaders. Then their leaders stood on top, and then they became a chair. Like you find a person heading Namanve Industrial Park, then a chairman of Nakawa Industrial Tinda Industrial Area. Then they come, then they verse each other, isn't it? They go for elections, they win. So when they win, it comes now like on a national level now. You find a person representing the industries of Kampala, another one is representing industries. Then after it, now they go to regions. Regions. So in the end, there are workers who are voting each other, isn't it? Regional workers heading, then after they go on top. That is like almost like trade unionism, like trade unions, right? So when they come on top, the chairman who will be on top, will the president who would call the chairman becomes the president who we call the chairman is the chairman of all the workers. That's why we say the dictatorship of the proletariat. The workers are ruling themselves and they have a power over their own destiny. So under that, because they are there, they have better working conditions. They agitate for better working conditions. They have power over their own fate. And Comrade Omari, Chairman Omari Stella in the US, I saw he had expounded on that theory. He said that in Africa we are workers. Even last time the president he had a theme on the Independence Day. It was about neocolonialism. You see, neocolonialism turned us to in Africa to be workers. In what context do we become workers? You see, the national bourgeoisie of Uganda is just a representative of the world bourgeoisie of the world capitalist class. In that the national bourgeoisie of Uganda represents the petty bourgeoisie of the world, isn't it? When you look, let me give you an example. Like Gaddafi was a very rich man, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. When they ask you right now, do you know where the riches of Gaddafi are? Okay, can his son enjoy them?
No, he can't.
Yes.
All of it they took it.
Because in Africa, we represent the petty bourgeoisie, and the people who are below. and the workers, there is no difference. Like now, Comrade Kwame, you may start up a business, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah? The business may fall and you may come back, you become like your jobless brothers, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? So which means the petty bourgeoisie cannot attain a class of itself. It remains servants. So we are all workers. Look at the Aliko Dangote, the richest man in Africa. When we have the valuation of the naira,
Yes. It affects you.
millions of yes,
Mm.
millions of nairas, which means that what anytime when a naira loses value, it becomes like a Zimbabwean what you may become too broke. Do you know that?
Mm.
It becomes like me. So, and all of us in this Africa, we work towards neo-colonial. We work for the colonial system. We are the ones who keep it in place. That's why Omar Stella says that Africa is the pedestal of colonialism, and it is the roots of colonialism which shall be cut off to do what for Africa to be united. So, under communism, why has communism not yet existed? Communism looks at the union of a nation. That's why we say an African nation in a communist world. Like what the other UPC uh, the other UPC guy, you remember him? Who was in the group?
Adola.
Yeah, Yoga.
Mm.
Yoga was looking at Uganda as a nation, which even the president himself thought and he said that that the party line moved from nationalism to Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism, we are looking at a full nation of Africa. People sharing the same, uh, people share the same tribe, language, almost a similar language, culture, interconnected by culture. You will see that all the people from the sub-Saharan Africa towards up to the Drakensberg Mountain southwards, all of them they speak almost a similar language. You will see that even these Kushites, even the people of Senegal, even the people of Nigeria, we have almost similar customs, isn't it?
Yes.
So it is one African nation. Even communism acknowledges it is one African. It is an African nation in a communist world. The communist will be the whole world. But as per now, we just look at socialism, socialism, socialism. So in a communism, we are having equality. Everything is equal. People get equal things. So I think this comrade of ours will have to look into the Communist Manifesto because he was looking at talent. Okay, Comrade Kwame, we are saying that what would happen in case I have a talent and my friend does not have, isn't it?
Mm.
Right?
Yes.
Should we all have the same? Should we all have the same things?
Mhm.
No, it can't happen. That's why I told you there is fair, there is equity, not equality. Not so.
Yes.
That's why you get more. You may be when you get there is what you call more packs. They call them packs in capitalist world, where your boss may have a free car, isn't it? A company car for you don't have it, isn't it? You get another. Okay, you may be having a free vehicle, yes,
Mm.
but you all have houses, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, you get something which does not, which is different from yours. But if you have a company vehicle and for my move in a taxi, don't we all reach where we are going?
Yes.
Yes. But if your children go to a school, and my children don't go, don't you think that their future is bad? If you have access, there are some things which are necessities to life which everyone needs. I would like the comrade to comment on that. How do you want your life to be like in case you are in such a system? Thank you.
Yes. Comrade, are you there? You want to say something concerning what Comrade Sankara was explaining?
Um,
I
thank
think
you, comrade.
let's
Thank you, comrade, for the detailed explanation. And I think I'm getting there. I'm getting to the same page like you guys. What I've primarily understood is communism is the extreme, like the real extreme of socialism. While socialism is more tolerating and it brings all people to the same level together to work together. Communism may be having like a capitalistic state, which is I think very unusual. If I'm not mistaken, I think you said earlier that we may not have any communist states, but we have socialist states. I think that's the gist of what I've understood.
Yeah, so socialism is what may have some elements of capitalism, but communism is an elevated form of socialism whereby you completely eliminate any capitalistic tendencies from society. So that's why you say that for socialist countries we have them, like we have Cuba, we have China. China itself is, they say they are practicing socialism with Chinese characteristics, but you can see that there's the capitalist elements in that. And then, of course, you have heard about scientific capitalism, scientific socialism. If you look at the Soviet Union, how it was, it had not yet attained the status of being a full communist country in itself, because it had some elements, of capitalism in it. So capitalism is that level which is elevated that communism, sorry, is that level whereby the capitalist element, tendencies are almost completely eliminated. That the private ownership is completely eliminated, and then there's communal ownership of everything. But in a socialist country, also you can have private people owning their property, but they cannot, their interest cannot supersede the interest of the community, of the whole society. And actually that's how it's supposed to be. Even in the capitalist states, that's how it is. If you talk about countries in Europe or in the other countries, that the interests of the whole continent, of the whole country, or the whole community always are paramount. So if something has to do with taking care of the interests of the country, then that becomes an issue of national security. That regardless of who you are, your rights are taken over. When it comes to taking care of the interests of the whole country. If you are an individual and you have certain interests, which need to be taken away for the interests of the whole group, of the whole country, of the whole community, then they have to be taken over. All right. So, but in extremely capitalistic countries, then you don't have that. In extremely capitalistic countries, uh, any individual can be there with all the resources, and a million people can be left to die. And he has the resources, by because he wants them. There is saying that there is. Then you can leave a million people to starve and die or sleep on the street. So, which is not acceptable in a socialist state like China, for example. You can see that President Xi Jinping, for example, when he came, there was some capitalist, tendencies within that society, which we are becoming very arrogant. People like Jack Ma and all these, that he has to come in and correct them and put them in order, which is not existent in capitalist states like the United States, which have this extreme capitalism. That even though they may bring them, or you can see people like John Rockefeller, when he created Standard Oil, they may bring them and they may have all those antitrust laws, people like Bill Gates and stuff like that. But even these laws, they do not affect them. That John Rockefeller, when they accused him of being a monopoly in the United States. This was some form of checking, you know, the desire to check, or was an attempt to check the capitalistic power. But even they did not do anything to him. They just told him that he should break the organization into different. And when he broke it, it still continued to be under his control, even though they said that it was a monopoly. He break it. He broke it into ExxonMobil, which we have today, Chevron, and all the other companies which later came on. I think there were about seven when he broke it up. But he continued to do the same thing. So in essence, he never did anything. So that's how it is different. That is how a socialist state is different from a capitalist state. And then that is how also a socialist state is also again different from a communist state. In a communist state, almost all private ownership is abolished, and everything is communally owned. Factories are communally owned. Everyone has a say. Maybe you can say that it is complete democracy. Communism, you can call it total democracy, absolute democracy, that everyone will have a say, not only in the political matters of supporting government, but in the economic affairs. That's the true democracy. That even the economy will be democratic. Everyone will have a say. So that's how I think is the difference. I think Comrade Sankar, I don't know whether you you you, you agree with my observation or analysis.
Yes, what you have spoken is true. It's 100% correct. Yes, there is a difference, as you have explained, there is a difference between socialism and communism, and there's also a difference between a socialist and also a communist. And there is something which I had forgotten to speak about. Yes, the communist is a crudest form. Like we have the leftists. The communist lies on the is an ultra leftist. We have the leftists. So we how can we, the staunchest leftist is a communist,
No, no, no.
and he has his own.
No, comrade,
Yes.
I think don't tell him the left and right. I think he's not yet ready for that. So maybe you can just explain that one, and then we'll pick it up small, small as we go along.
It is okay. Thank you. Can proceed.
Because there's this right wing, whatever, right wing, and then left wing. In the United States, like what they say is right in left wing in the United States, not really left wing. These are all imperials claiming that they are right wing and left wing and stuff like that. So it can be confusing, I think, even in some cases. You'll find that the socialists themselves, in many cases, in socialist countries, they have even stopped calling themselves left wing because of how they left, the left has been made sort of like a joking thing in the United States, that capitalists are calling themselves West, that they are left wing. Like in the Democratic
Yes.
Party in the United States, they are calling themselves that they are left wing, and Trump also is calling them that they are what radical left and stuff like
Yes,
that.
we have some socialists who are also part of the right, the bourgeoisie socialists. They are bourgeoisie in nature, that they do the same things like the right wing. They like reforms. For them, a bourgeoisie socialist, like I told you, a Pan Africanist who drives who does not care about the environment. He plants two trees and he says, "I love Africa. I planted trees," but his carbon emissions are too much, isn't it? So it is the same as the bourgeoisie socialist. The bourgeoisie socialist frame says that we are not exploiting the natural resources well. This thing could have done like this. We would have exploited the things very well. So it is a bourgeoisie socialist. He looks at exploiting the things very well for his achievement or the achievements of the world. That's why like we have the Nazis. The Nazis are it is Nazi in full. It is National Socialist, isn't it?
Mm.
Right? But their socialism does not lie on the left wing. Nazis are socialists, but they are fascists. Not so. For them, they look at their race like Hitler. Hitler looked at the Aryan race. He looked at his race as beyond all the other people, as being very, very important beyond the other people. So he wanted to exploit on the others to make his race richer and stronger. Not so. So that is fascists. The fascists are also on the right. We have the fascists. Then we have also the social democrats. They're also on the right. Then we have the bourgeoisie socialists. Then we have just the fascists. They are ultra right. That is why Lenin says that fascism is capitalist. Okay? Then we have the center. The center, of course. Then we have now we go to zero. That is just people who don't know where they belong. They're just there. It's like you may have a person who just brings, you may bring a piece of a socialist policy. Next time, you bring a policy which is capitalist in nature. Someone may say we are bringing free schools. We have to liberalize the economy. Is it? That one is just in the center. You cannot you can bring any policy which falls anywhere. Then we have the left. Now we start the left. We have the people who believe that free education, free healthcare are just the left. Then we go to the now, of course, the center of the left. We have the socialists, those who believe also free education, free what. Then we have there at least now the system is becoming more crude. There we have like uh, a one-party state, isn't it? That's what Nkrumah speaks about also in that document. We have in a one-party state like China. For you to go on top, you have to have become that chairman. Or Cuba, you have to have come through that party, isn't it?
Yes.
That's what we're having here as a movement system. As in Tanzania, they were having the Chama cha Mapinduzi. You struggle through the Chama cha Mapinduzi, then you go on top. Uh-huh. It is the one party state. So after the one party state, now that is why you are seeing the communism is coming in from. Now,
Yes.
after we are having complete nationalization, there's no any private owned uh, thing. There's no any public private owned thing there. So it is communal ownership uh, uh, uh,
All the means of
of
production.
yes, of there is control of factors of production. The major thing which you look at it is in capitalism they exploit your labor. Do you know that the labor which you put in is not the same thing that you get? Not so. Have you ever believed in that? Let us say, okay, comrade, right? You have cotton in a farm, not so. Eh? Hello?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Or you planted cotton in a farm, not so. You
Mm-hmm.
picked that cotton. You bought cotton. Your boss bought cotton from a farm for a particular price, isn't it? He brought it. You sorted that cotton. After sorting that cotton, you made threads. After making threads, you made the parts. Not so. The parts are sewed together to make taken to a tailor. The tailor makes a shirt. Not so. The shirt is put on market. Where does that person get the profit from? Where does the seller get the profit from? Hmm?
From selling,
On selling, where does he get the profit from?
from your labor.
From labor, profit is cheated. It is cheated money. Profit is cheated money. So when that profit becomes, it is kept saved. It becomes what surplus value, surplus labor. So that's where Karl Marx brings in the theory of surplus value. That money is taken to other countries as investment by multinationals. Multinationals use that labor from one nation, they take it to another nation for exploitation. They keep on exploiting it, and now they take it to another country. like that. They keep on uh, doing that. In the end, the whole world is exploited by multinationals, isn't it? So the profit is stolen. There is no one who can deceive you because the value added it is paid through the wear and tear of machines, isn't it?
Mm.
Right? So where does the profit come from? So in communism, they are doing away with all that safety because if the profit comes, they will go back to the state. Now, why would a private individual gain interest the profit from? And the factories are also getting incentives from the government, isn't it right?
Yeah.
Because we are seeing here rich people are also getting incentives. Yes, I think you can proceed.
Okay. Comrade, have you got something? Have you been able to understand a little bit?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm following up. But what I keep coming back to
Mm-hmm.
uh, is the fact that I need to live in such a state where everything is equally shared, and every profit reverts back to the state. I feel like to understand this concept, someone needs to be in such a state and actually see how this is done. Otherwise, I'm trying to understand it intellectually.
There's never been actually such a state, and thinkers even now have come up. If you go to YouTube, I want you to look at. You can go to YouTube and look for a guy called Eric Lee. There's a talk which is called "A Tale of Two Political Systems." A Tale of Two Political Systems. You type in Eric Lee, A Tale of Two Political Systems, and he's trying to expand on that. And he's from China actually. He grew up he went and studied in the United States at Stanford, and he came back to China and started his company. So other people like the Nkrumahs were saying that okay, because of the nature of humans, because these are people who have struggled. Nkrumah, why is distinguished on this African continent is that he struggled to understand the African landscape and, of course, to reconcile the behavior of Africans and our culture, and then to reconcile it with the modern system, modernization, because this is somebody who believed in a rapid technological advancement, unlike Nyerere, who was saying that we should go back to the old days when we used to do things as Africans and communal, this thing. So Nkrumah, what he was saying that we have to advance with the advanced technology, but then we don't have to, to abandon our Africanness, our African culture. We have to inject within that modernity the African personality, what we call the African personality. And if you go back to China, you can see that how Chinese are doing things is almost the same thing which Nkrumah was talking about. That the Chinese are talking about socialism, the Chinese characteristics. So the characteristics is the cultural element of it. So when you are talking about uh, communism, there is no particular state which has really attained that level. But the modern thinkers, what they are realizing is that maybe okay, that may not happen, or it may even happen at a long time later on after a lot of socialistic countries have risen and stuff like that. Maybe to a certain level, maybe it will happen, maybe it will not happen. But the modern, at least modern thinkers are saying that you have to have, because capitalism has the ability of helping to create wealth, so you need to integrate that with the humanistic, outlook, the humanistic policies of socialism, like what we are seeing in China, that they started with socialism, for example. Then Xiaoping came and brought in extreme capitalism and open market policies, and then now Xi Jinping is sending it back to socialism, redistributing. They are trying to redistribute the wealth which was created during the opening up period. That is what Xi Jinping is struggling with in China, and of course to clean up the environment which was polluted during that period. So you can see that if there's any nation which is at least moving closer, maybe it is China. But we, but we who are also, but we as a continent in Africa, who are also struggling to build ourselves rapidly, we have to be definitely at the level of scientific socialism, whereby we are able to build ourselves up industrially and improve the standards of life of our people. And then maybe we can reach a certain level and say, okay, this is what we have attained. We need to redistribute this wealth, and then we need to move. We set new standards that this is how we need to move. This is the new types of industries, how they need to be. This is the new technology. We will be able to harness it in this kind of way and stuff like that. But there's never been such a country which has completely attained community and reach the level of communism. I hope you are understanding what I'm saying. Hello, comrade.
Yes, comrade. Yes,
Yes, yes,
yes,
I'm following.
yes,
I'm following.
comrade.
Mm.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So that's it. So let's go and maybe we read one more paragraph, and then we can start from there tomorrow when we come. uh, the relative importance of each group. So Nkuma was talking about the imperial strategies, therefore directed towards bringing into a position of preeminence that group which most nearly shares its economic and political views. So you can see that even here in Nkuma's analysis, is analyzing a revolutionary movement. You know, you may call it a socialist movement, or it could be a socialist movement. But what he's saying, of course, he has already told us that the movement to be successful, it has to be socialist in nature. He has opened with that, that this is particularly true in a one-party state, which can only function particularly, this is particularly true in a state, in a one-party state, which can only function successfully under socialism. You see, so a single-party state can only function under socialism. But he is saying that within that uh, you will still have, of course, people who want to be moderate. So moderate means that they will always invite. This is what we explained about Deng Xiaoping and Mao Zedong during the Chinese Communist Revolution. You know, the Communist Party of China. That you always have some people, even though they don't want to sell out, that they want to go into capitalism, but they will say, okay, can we moderate here a little bit and add in some elements of capitalism, even though that period where you are under a period where everyone is extreme on the side of, okay, we want to practice communism. Because during that period, like the Chinese Communist Party, Mao Zedong thought that they would just, they will be able to practice communism once and for all right, and be able to achieve the objectives or achieve the communist state. And yet, maybe the conditions during that period, they will not allow you, that you have to go through the phase of socialism before you can reach the communist. Okay, so this one I'm just bringing it as an example. But within that period of extreme communism, or the pursuit of extreme communism, there was some elements who were moderate and had seen that maybe we need to integrate within, our practice. We need to integrate in some market policies, some free market policies, and that means that leaving individuals to cut out some accumulation of capital. All right, because that is what it meant. The market, the free market economy, and then maybe attract the technology which is in capitalist states, so that it can come here and then we can copy it and stuff like that. But this existence of people like that, also Nkrumah is what he's warning about, and he's saying that, okay, these people, they may exist within the revolutionary ranks, but also he's saying that imperialism will seek to capitalize on these. Imperialist strategy is directed towards bringing into a position of preeminence a group which most nearly shares its economic and political views. You see? So if a member of a group which is absolutely opposed to imperialism is in control of the state and party, attempts are either made at assassination or a coup d'etat or palace revolution, which will permit political power to fall into the lap of the rival but pro-imperialist group. You see? So unless the party, the Revolutionary Party itself, has built within itself mechanisms for self-diagnosis that people are really strong in what they believe in, then imperialism will seek to exploit those people who have the elements, the reform elements. All right. So this is what Nkrumah is talking about. And imperialist will, in its penetration and infiltration, it will seek to destroy the people who are not compromising, at all. So personally, I think that the best gift for me, which the Chinese had, is Mao Zedong. The rise of Mao. It helped China, because if Mao had not risen, I think that it would have been difficult for China to achieve what it has achieved today. Because during his period, he was able to put down all those ones who would have destroyed China. During his period, and actually even the period to come later on in the future, that he was able completely to remove those ones and put them down, or even to eliminate them. So I think that this is what Nkrumah is talking about. So during his era, during his lifetime, Mao, those elements who had reformist agendas were not allowed in the party, and he cleaned everywhere and he hunted for everyone completely. So, or a decentralization of political power within the ruling party, one group being strong. So this is saying that the imperialists will choose to assassinate, you know, people who are, completely, opposed to it. All right, until the power goes into the hands of the moderates, or they will do a decentralization of political power within the ruling party. One group being strong in the state machinery, and the other in the party machine. Even in the state machine, the vital organs are actively put into the hands of forces ready to parley with the imperialists. To parley, I think, to side with the imperialists or to move with them. The nursing of this content and confusion within the party and among the people through the spread of conflicting ideologies, rumors of economic rundown, maladministration, and corruption will permit the creation of an atmosphere of dissatisfaction favorable to a change in the personnel of government. Ostensibly, the same party is in power. In truth, a qualitative change in the nature of political power has taken place. So he's just talking about also when the political party has come to power, all right, or a revolutionary party has come to power. These are all things which the political party, the revolutionary party, needs to be guarded. So you are supposed to have, within the party, mechanisms for understanding that these problems can arise, that within the moderate groups, imperialism can pass through that to undermine the interests of the party and hence the interests of the whole country. So, comrades, I'm thinking that today we should stop here. Maybe we'll start from here next time when we come. I don't know what you guys think.
Yes, thank you very much, comrade.
Unless
Thank you.
you guys have anything to add, any closing remarks?
Uh, First of all, thank you very much, you guys, for indulging me. And even though I'm not very well versed with these technicalities, I'm catching up. But before we go, I don't know if it is too much to ask. What's, for example, the difference between present day socialism in China and North Korea, for example?
Comrade Sankara, you want to answer him?
When we are the reason why they say in communism in China, it is called hybrid communism. We are having it is communism with socially with Chinese characteristics. That was a document which they wrote around 1950 in Latin America. They said we cannot create a socialism that is a replica of the USSR in what? In Latin America. It was written by Joan something. We have to create socialism which suits the characteristics. When you look when you look at the in Marxism, there's what you call concrete historical analysis. The historical analysis of, for example, what Marx writes and Lenin looks at the evolution of the Russians, the the serfs, the way they came into place, how it was developing, the royals, the what. So when you look at the concrete historical analysis of like Africa, you'll find that some things don't truly move the way the European way, the way they wrote. Not so, isn't it?
mm, mm,
Whatever is in Europe, it is not the same way that it was in Africa or it was in China. So we have to write or create policies which are in line with the conditions of the people that are going through in our different nations. So the one, yes, China and North Korea are their neighbors. It's true, but the people of North Korea are experiencing uh, different conditions as per the ones in China. But so they have to do what addresses their national issues. And the reason as per why North Korea is closed off from the South, it is of course there's also ideological issues, communism, and the upper one it was an annex like of the USSR, because the USSR was protecting the Korean people of North Korea using the Chinese People's Liberation Army, and then the North Korea and the South Korea was being protected by the what, by the Americans. Indeed, that was 1954, 1956, then, but in the 1950s. So it is that's why the North Korea is closed off. But mostly, when you read about the old books about you'll find that that was the what the Korea most of them served in the army of the USSR. So what makes their ideology different? There's no big difference between them. Only that they did what only that for them they are still behind because the UN has closed them off. The Americans have fought them off ideologically. What they are, and also the world arena puts them to be what makes them to look like but when you look at like for example North Korea, there is one of the African presidents who died and the daughter grew up in North Korea. Yes. I think that was the president of Equatorial Guinea. Eh?
mm.
The
He
fo-
did what?
yeah. The president died and the daughter grew in North Korea with those of the Kim Jong Un. You have I think you've heard of that black girl.
Mm,
She speaks perfect Korean. They are not racists. Uh-huh. Only that for them it is a single party state, completely single party state. Uh,
yeah.
Everything has to move in line with socialism. It's not like China. In North Korea, I have seen they call them the Bianca. They build houses and you get rooms there. I'm not saying that I'm 18, I'm going to build my house. Negative. You stay in those blocks constructed by the government. The government has control over resource allocation and factors of production, all of them. The state controls everywhere. It rations food, it gives people food, education, uh, and of course, like you see the national priorities in education, right? Like the way says people study sciences, the government should be ready to provide schools for people in that line, right? Not so. So that's why you'll
But
find that like most people,
that sounds like real
uh,
communism in North Korea.
yeah, it's like real communism. Like, okay, let us take like a stance like of Cuba. You'll find that most Cubans are doctors. Have you ever realized that?
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think
Yes,
about doctors?
most of them. Do you know why they are doctors? It is because it is the party line. The party line, the state puts more books. It trains people mostly in biology. At least you rather fail everything, but you know biology and chemistry, not so. So it is in mind that most of the people there are scientists, and it is correct because it is what is said. So it is same as North Korea, but North Korea it is enclosed off from the world because of segregating it like that. But there is nothing very big, but it is like real communism almost.
Yeah, so
But
that's basically the difference.
communism cannot be achieved by just only one state. It is a full nation. But what I wanted us, hello,
Yes, you can hear it.
Yeah, we're
what
here.
I wanted us to look into, I wanted us to look into party formation because Nkrumah is saying that the liberal, there are people who are not so staunch enough, so they are likely to be used. Because as I introduced, I'm a Marxist Leninist, so I have read through what even I know Comrade Kwame have read such things of democratic centralism and constructive criticism, right?
Mm, mm.
Yes.
Yeah,
In how would I evaluate you that you truly understand the theory and the practice? Mostly the theory. It is that democratic centralism. If I have a quarrel with you, like for example, I'm annoyed, Comrade Kwame, you did such and such a bad thing. I'll bring it and we sit upon it. Eh?
mm,
Uh, democratic centralism. I say Comrade Kwame made such a wrong decision. Then we sit we bring it amongst all of us. That is democracy. Now everyone says, Comrade Kwame, you did something wrong. Oh, Comrade Sankara, you did something wrong. So because you did something wrong, you need to do such and such. You should never repeat it, isn't it?
mm,
So all of us comrades, we are judging you. We are saying this one was wrong, this one was correct. So that is democratic centralism and constructive criticism. We are not punishing you, but we are encouraging you that this line that you're taking is likely to cause you problems. So it is better for you to shift. Constructive. We are criticizing you constructively, isn't it?
mm,
Right? So what happens when you fail to learn? We have to say. Actually, they would, this capitalists for them they say that is a sentence to re-education. You need to learn. You need to relearn because maybe because all of us we are learning. We are continuously learning. We may forget or we may think otherwise. That's why those people like Deng Xiaoping. If I would look at him, I would say that he's a revisionist. And a revisionist is a person who reads, like for example, you may read something, you put in too much thinking, and that thinking shifts you from the party line. So you may start now changing it to your own way of thinking, not so. But
mm.
as you're changing it, it's like when your mother tells you, Comrade Kwame, never eat in this place, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you heard of that? Never eat here. Even if it's your uncle. But for you to sit and you say, he told me I should never eat there. Those are all the things. Just I should just leave them, isn't it? For me, since even she's not really big one to eat, but do you know why she never told you to eat there?
Mm.
You eat there and they will poison you and you die. In the end, who will lose? Are you not the one?
Mm.
So it is a revisionism. It is almost the same as that. It is because you never know why they're telling you not to eat from there, they are protecting you from your enemies. Are you seeing?
Yeah.
It is like last time when I told you I criticized Nkrumah for one thing. Nkrumah is like almost like Comrade Amil Cabra. Amil Cabra trusted people. And those people in the end they enter gym. Afrifa would not have betrayed in Kuruma. Do you know that? And
Nkrumah
Afrifa,
challenges, Nkrumah challenges were
but
very hard, my brother.
because for us we Africans, you know, Africans we have that thing of Ubuntu. Not so. You say, but for sure, Comrade Kwame has annoyed me. Why should I kill him? Isn't it? Eh?
Yes,
Why
yes.
should I kill him? You look at his children. What? Now
Mm,
you become very sorry for that person. Are you seeing?
mm, yes,
But in the end, that person has not changed. He's keeping you in his heart, isn't it?
yes,
Yeah. So the party line in communism, okay, socialism is easier, but communism for it says you should never trust anyone who has ever betrayed you. It is if I tell you, Comrade Kwame, uh, I'm going to do this and this, I have to do it. It is a must. I have to do it. Are you saying? And if I don't do it, I'm supposed to subject myself to self criticism. I have to criticize, like one time you called me, I was in a bar. Are you seeing? So when I was in a bar, after some time, it took some time, so I sat myself down and I said, but for sure, I am becoming an alcoholic. Are you seeing? Why should I be drinking to this extent? That is self criticism. I think I'm criticizing
yeah,
myself without anyone telling me why should I be drinking like this. So those as a communist, those things should be in you. You should not wait for someone to tell you, hey you guy, you have been drinking, you change, you're over drinking. You yourself you should sit and you say for sure these days I am sleeping with women. I'm just surviving. I don't know what is making me survive. Why shouldn't I change? Are you seeing?
yeah.
Self-criticism, then constructive criticism. I am sorry I did so and such a thing because, and there is a reason as to why we say comrade. I say comrade it is brotherly. You should tell such and such a person your real problem, not hiding. Because communists have a tendency of looking for what is the real problem. Is this guy hiding from me? Are you seeing?
Mm,
So in the end, he may think, right, so you tell him, for me yesterday I was with such and such, maybe I was with a woman. I think so constructive criticism and democratic secularism, it is what unites people.
mm.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so comrades, I think that we'll take it from here next week. Uh, it was a very good discussion. Then I think we'll pick it from next week. We'll take it from here.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.